The adoption hub floated like a small jewel in the endless black of space. Its metal rings glinted under the distant sun, and ships from hundreds of worlds came and went like bees around a hive. The hub was a place of hope, a place where alien children, many abandoned or orphaned, waited for families who could care for them. Some were lucky, most were not. Lyra, a small girl from the planet Zithera, sat quietly on the edge of a metal bench. Her violet skin shimmered faintly under the hub's lights, and her large eyes, golden with streaks of silver, followed every passing person. Her legs were folded beneath her, and she hugged a thin blanket tightly. She had been returned many times, more than she could remember. Each time a family had taken her in, only to decide she was too strange, too difficult, too different. She had stopped asking why. She had stopped hoping. Every smile she offered had been met with disappointment, every hug with goodbye. Now, she simply watched, silent, waiting for the next family to glance at her and walk away. A loud clang echoed through the hub as a crate fell from a floating transport unit. Children screamed, and the staff hurried forward, trying to calm the chaos. Lyra's eyes narrowed. She noticed a smaller child, a thin, timid alien with green feathers, frozen in fear. Without thinking, she leapt from the bench, running to push the child out of the way just as the crate tumbled toward them. The crate hit the floor with a massive crash. Lyra fell hard, scraping her hands, but the child was safe. The staff rushed over, concern written across their faces. Lyra ignored her pain and helped the small alien to its feet. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice quiet but steady. The child nodded, wide-eyed. A human officer, standing nearby, raised an eyebrow. Humans rarely adopted aliens at the hub, but he always watched closely. Today, a visitor caught his attention. Captain Daniel Hayes stepped onto the observation deck, his sharp blue eyes scanning the crowd. He was tall, with a calm presence that made people notice him immediately. When he saw Lyra push the child out of harm's way, his expression changed. "Interesting," he muttered to himself. Daniel made his way down to the main floor. Staff members nodded in respect as he passed, and children glanced up with curiosity. He stopped beside Lyra, who now sat on the bench, brushing dirt from her clothes. He knelt to meet her gaze. "Hi there," he said gently. "I'm Daniel. What's your name?" Lyra hesitated, unsure if she should trust him. "Lyra," she said finally, her voice soft. "Lyra," he repeated, smiling. "That's a beautiful name." She frowned slightly. Most people praised her name, but never stayed long enough to know her. Daniel, however, did not look away. "Do you like being here?" he asked. Lyra shook her head. "Not really. People keep leaving." Daniel nodded slowly. "I can see why you'd feel that way, but sometimes the right person takes a little longer to find." She blinked. No one had ever said that to her before. Usually people simply turned their backs or whispered about how difficult she was. She felt a small spark of hope, though she quickly buried it. Over the next few hours, Daniel watched Lyra from a distance. He noticed her curiosity, her cleverness, and the way she quietly helped other children when no one was looking. She was brave but cautious, independent but lonely. These were qualities he admired. By evening, most of the visitors had left, and the hub grew quieter. Lyra sat by the viewing window, looking out at the stars. Daniel approached her again. "You like the stars?" he asked. Lyra shrugged. "They are pretty, but they don't do anything." Daniel chuckled. "Maybe. But they remind me there's a lot of universe out there. Maybe even a place for you, Lyra. Somewhere you belong." She looked at him, unsure. The words sounded nice, but she had heard them before, and they had never meant anything. Still, his eyes were different. They were kind, patient, and there was no hint of judgment. "Would you like to play a game?" he asked, reaching into his bag. He pulled out a small holographic puzzle shimmering in midair. "It's a human game. You solve it, and I'll solve it too. We can see who finishes first." Lyra's eyes widened. She had never played a human game, but something about Daniel made her want to try. Slowly, she nodded. The puzzle floated between them, glowing softly. Lyra's fingers moved quickly, her mind sharp and focused. Daniel smiled, impressed by her intelligence. The game was simple for him, but for Lyra, it was a challenge, and she loved it. She laughed softly when she solved a piece before him, and Daniel laughed too, clapping his hands. For the first time in a long while, Lyra felt seen. She felt recognized not as a burden or a problem, but as someone capable, someone brave, someone special. "Not bad," Daniel said, smiling warmly. "You have a clever mind, Lyra. I think you're going to do great things someday." Lyra looked at him, her heart beating fast. She didn't know why, but she wanted to trust him. She wanted to believe that maybe, just maybe, this human could be different. As night fell over the hub, the stars outside shone brighter than ever. Lyra sat beside Daniel, no longer feeling completely alone. Somewhere in the vastness of the galaxy, a small spark of hope had been lit, and she didn't want it to go out. Little did she know this spark would grow into something much larger, a connection that could finally give her the home she had always dreamed of. The next morning, the adoption hub buzzed with activity. Ships arrived with children of all shapes and sizes, some from planets no human had ever seen. Lyra woke early, the events of the previous evening replaying in her mind. She felt something she had not felt in a long time: curiosity. Maybe this human, Daniel, was different. Maybe he could stay. Breakfast was a quiet affair for most of the children, but Lyra noticed Daniel waiting in the common hall. He smiled at her when she entered. "Good morning, Lyra," he said, his voice warm. "Did you sleep well?" Lyra shrugged. "Okay." She didn't trust her words to show the truth of her feelings. "That's a start," Daniel said, sitting beside her. "Do you want to explore the hub today?" Lyra hesitated. The hub was a place she knew too well. There were playrooms, classrooms, gardens, and observation decks, but most of it had felt lonely. She looked at Daniel, then slowly nodded. "Okay." As they walked through the hub, Daniel pointed out the different areas. He explained what each section was for and told small stories about Earth, about human children, and even about pets humans kept. Lyra listened, fascinated by his words, though she said very little. Trust did not come easily. At the garden dome, Lyra paused. The dome contained plants from hundreds of worlds, and a small pond reflected the artificial sunlight. She knelt by the water, touching its smooth surface. Daniel joined her. "Do you like it here?" he asked gently. Lyra shook her head. "It's pretty, but it's not home." Daniel nodded. "I understand. Home is not just a place. It's where you feel safe, where someone cares about you no matter what. You deserve that, Lyra." Lyra looked up at him. She wanted to believe him, but her heart remembered all the times she had been left behind. Still, something about Daniel's calm voice, his steady eyes, made her consider hope. Their walk continued. Lyra began to notice other children who were shy or nervous. One small alien boy, covered in soft orange fur, was trying to climb a play structure but kept slipping. Without thinking, Lyra went to help him, her hands steady, her movements careful. Daniel watched, quietly impressed. "You're very brave," he said when she returned. Lyra shrugged, her cheeks pink. "I just didn't want him to fall." Daniel smiled. "That's exactly what makes you special, Lyra. You care about others even when no one is watching. That's a rare gift." Throughout the day, Daniel remained patient. He did not push her. He did not demand her trust. Instead, he showed kindness, in small ways, offering her food she liked, helping her with puzzles, and telling stories that made her laugh. By afternoon, Lyra felt something she had not felt in years. She felt safe. She felt seen. She even laughed freely, a sound that was rare for her. Other children began to notice the bond forming between her and the human. Some whispered with surprise, and a few adults looked on with curiosity. Humans were not common at the hub, and none had ever tried to adopt a child like Lyra before. In a quiet corner of the observation deck, Daniel asked, "Do you know why some families returned you?" Lyra's eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them back. "Because I'm different." Daniel nodded thoughtfully. "Being different is not a bad thing. It's what makes you unique. Humans believe everyone has value, Lyra. And I think you have a lot of value." Her heart thumped at his words. They were so simple, but they meant more than anything anyone had said to her in years. Slowly, she began to believe that maybe someone could truly care for her. The day passed quickly. Lyra explored every corner of the hub, trying new games and learning new things. Daniel stayed by her side, encouraging her but never forcing her. They solved puzzles, examined alien plants, and even watched a holographic star display together. Lyra began to realize that this human was different. He did not see her as a problem. He did not see her as someone to reject. He saw her as Lyra. As evening approached, Daniel knelt beside her again. "Lyra, would you like to meet more humans? Some might be able to give you a home, like I can." Lyra hesitated. Meeting other humans scared her. What if they left too? But Daniel's eyes were steady, patient, kind. She nodded slightly. "Okay." Daniel smiled. "Good. Remember, Lyra, you don't have to decide today. You can take your time. I'm here, and I'll help you every step of the way." For the first time in a long while, Lyra felt a small warmth in her chest. She wanted to trust him. She wanted to hope. Maybe, finally, someone could give her a forever home. The hub's lights dimmed for the night. Children settled into their sleeping quarters, some restless, some peaceful. Lyra curled under her blanket, thinking about the day. She had played, learned, and laughed. She had felt seen. And for the first time in years, she imagined what it would be like to belong somewhere, to have someone who cared no matter what. Daniel stood at the doorway, watching her quietly. He had seen many alien children, some brave, some fragile, some afraid. Lyra was all of those things, but she was also remarkable. He knew the path ahead would not be easy. Adoption laws were strict, and some humans doubted their ability to care for aliens. But he was willing to try. He was willing to fight for her. Somewhere in the darkness of the galaxy, Lyra slept. Her dreams were filled with stars, laughter, and the possibility of home. And for the first time, she felt that maybe tomorrow could bring something wonderful, a chance to be loved finally without fear. The next morning, the adoption hub was alive with activity. Children from planets near and far moved through the halls, some laughing, some nervous, and some quietly waiting for someone to choose them. Lyra woke early, feeling a mix of excitement and worry. Yesterday had been different. She had laughed, played, and for the first time felt that maybe someone could care for her. But today, reality reminded her of all the times she had been returned. Daniel was already waiting when she entered the common hall. "Good morning, Lyra," he said softly. "Ready for another day of exploring?" Lyra nodded, her hands gripping the edges of her blanket. She wanted to trust him, but fear still lingered. "I think so," she whispered. They began their day by visiting the learning rooms. The hub had classrooms designed for all kinds of species, with holographic boards and interactive lessons. Lyra had always been curious and quick to learn, and Today was no different. She solved puzzles that other children struggled with, her mind sharp and focused. Daniel watched, smiling. "You learn fast?" he said. "That's impressive." Lyra shrugged, though a small smile appeared on her face. "I have to," she said softly. "Otherwise, people don't want me." Daniel's expression softened. "I know, Lyra, but you don't have to prove yourself to me. You're already enough." As they walked through the hub, Lyra noticed families stopping by her side. Some were alien, some human, but all were curious about her. Daniel explained quietly, "They want to know if you're ready to join a family. You don't have to answer now. Just take your time." One alien family, covered in pale green scales and long, thin limbs, approached them. The mother spoke first. "Human," she said to Daniel, "are you certain you can handle a child like her? She is unusual." Daniel looked at Lyra and then back at the alien mother. "I believe I can," he said firmly. "Lyra has qualities that make her strong, brave, and intelligent. She deserves a chance." The mother frowned. "Many tried and returned her." "Why would you be different?" Daniel smiled calmly. "Because I see her for who she really is. I won't give up on her. That is what matters." Lyra felt a warmth in her chest. For the first time, someone was defending her, without hesitation. She looked up at Daniel, her golden eyes shining with trust she had barely felt before. Later, they visited the recreation dome. Children played on floating platforms, leaping and laughing. Lyra hesitated at first, unsure how to join. Daniel knelt beside her. "You can go at your own pace," he said. "I'll be right here." Slowly, Lyra moved forward. She jumped onto a small platform and began to float, her laughter breaking through years of fear. Other children noticed and smiled, inviting her to join their games. Daniel clapped from below, proud of her courage. However, the day was not without its challenges. Lyra noticed whispers and sideways glances from some families. "Too clever," one muttered. "Too strange," another said. She remembered all, the times she had been rejected, and fear crept back into her heart. Daniel noticed her hesitation. "Lyra," he said gently, "don't listen to them. Their opinions don't define you. You are brave, smart, and kind. That is what matters." Lyra nodded slowly. His words were comforting, but trust did not come quickly. She had been hurt too many times before. As the afternoon approached, Daniel guided her to the observation deck. The view of the galaxy stretched before them, stars twinkling in the endless black. Lyra pressed her hands to the glass. "Do you ever wonder," she asked softly, "why some children are chosen and others aren't?" Daniel considered her question. "Yes," he said finally, "but I believe everyone has a place. Sometimes it just takes longer to find it, and sometimes the right person sees what others cannot." Lyra looked at him, a flicker of hope in her eyes. "Do you think I have a place?" Daniel smiled, warmly. "I know you do, Lyra, and I'll help you find it." Their quiet moment was interrupted by a hub official, a tall alien with silver hair and bright blue eyes. "Daniel Hayes," he said, "you are aware of the adoption regulations. Humans rarely adopt aliens, and some species have strict rules. Are you prepared for the process?" Daniel nodded. "I am. I will follow the rules. But I will also fight for Lyra. She deserves a home, and I am willing to do everything I can to give her one." The official's eyes narrowed. "It will not be easy. Some species will resist. Some families will question your ability. Are you certain?" Daniel's jaw tightened. "I am certain." Lyra watched this exchange, her heart beating fast. Daniel was speaking for her, defending her, believing in her when others had not. She felt a small sense of pride. Maybe she could trust him after all. By evening, the hub had quieted. Lyra and Daniel returned to the common hall where children settled into their sleeping quarters. Lyra curled up on a bench, clutching her thin blanket. She thought about the day, the games, the lessons, the challenges. She thought about Daniel's patience, his kindness, and his belief in her. For the first time, Lyra imagined what it would be like to have a home where someone never gave up on her. She imagined someone who would care for her, protect her, and believe in her even when the world did not. That someone was Daniel. As the hub's lights dimmed, Lyra closed her eyes. Fear still lingered, but it was joined by something new, a flicker of hope. She had faced challenges before, but with Daniel beside her, she felt stronger. She felt that maybe, finally, she could find a place where she belonged. Daniel watched her quietly, a small smile on his face. He knew the path ahead would be difficult, filled with rules, doubts, and obstacles. But he also knew that Lyra was special. She was brave, clever, and kind. And he would not stop until she had the home she deserved. A forever home. Somewhere, in the galaxy, stars shone down on the adoption hub. Among them, a small alien girl dreamed of a future filled with laughter, trust, and a human who believed in her. And that dream, fragile yet bright, was just beginning to grow. Word count, 953. The adoption hub had been busy all day, with children laughing, running, and playing in every corner. Lyra had spent the morning in the learning rooms, solving puzzles and studying alien languages. Daniel had been by her side the entire time, encouraging her, answering her questions, and quietly observing her cleverness and courage. By late afternoon, most of the children had gathered in the recreation dome. Floating platforms hovered in midair, glowing softly, and alien creatures played games, chased each other, and floated gracefully through the air. Lyra was having fun, slowly growing more confident with every step she took. Then, a loud alarm rang through the hub. Red lights flashed, and a robotic voice announced, "Warning! Life support malfunction in Sector C. Evacuate immediately!" Panic spread quickly. Children screamed, and staff rushed to organize evacuation. Lyra froze for a moment, unsure what to do. She had faced many challenges, but this was different. This was real danger. Daniel grabbed her hand. "Stay close to me, Lyra. We'll get through this together." The hub's corridors filled with rushing children, some frightened, some pushing to get ahead. Lyra noticed a small alien boy, not much younger than her, trapped behind a falling panel. Without thinking, she darted forward, pushing the panel aside and helping the boy escape. Daniel watched, a mixture of pride and concern on his face. "Good job, Lyra. That was very brave." Lyra didn't stop. She moved from group to group, guiding children toward the evacuation zones, helping anyone who stumbled or panicked. She ignored the smoke and the noise, focusing only on keeping others safe. The staff tried to organize the children, but many were overwhelmed by the chaos. Daniel ran beside Lyra, shouting instructions, calming frightened children, and carrying those who could not move fast enough. Lyra's courage inspired others. Slowly, the chaos began to settle, and the children followed her lead. Finally, they reached a safe zone, a reinforced room with oxygen supplies and food. Lyra collapsed onto a bench, breathing heavily. Her hands scraped and bruised. Daniel knelt beside her, checking for injuries. "You're okay?" he said, smiling. "See? We did it together." Lyra shook her head, tears in her eyes. "I was scared, but I wanted to help them." Daniel took her hand. "That's the part that matters, Lyra. You cared about others even when it was dangerous. That shows your strength and your heart. Most children wouldn't have done what you did." Lyra looked at him, a mix of pride and relief in her golden eyes. For the first time, she felt truly seen. She was not just a child to be returned or rejected. She was brave, capable, and valuable. Word of Lyra's courage spread quickly through the hub. Staff and visitors whispered about the small alien girl who had guided children to safety. Even officials who were strict about adoption paused to consider her bravery. Daniel knew that this event might change their opinions. Later, when the hub was quiet again, Daniel sat with Lyra in the garden dome. The plants glowed softly, and the artificial sunlight reflected off the small pond. Lyra dipped her hand in the water, still trembling from the day's events. "Do you know what I saw today, Lyra?" Daniel asked gently. "I saw someone who never gave up, someone who faced danger and still thought about others. You were amazing." Lyra shook her head. "I was just trying not to get anyone hurt," Daniel smiled. "That's what makes you special. Most people only think of themselves when things get scary. You thought of others. That is the heart of a hero." Lyra felt a warmth spread through her chest. Daniel's words were different from anything she had ever heard. They weren't instructions or corrections or advice. They were recognition. They were belief. As night approached, the hub staff gathered to discuss the incident. Officials debated the protocols, the failures in life support, and the need for improved safety. But amid their discussions, one fact stood out. Lyra had acted with bravery and intelligence that exceeded expectations. Daniel stood with her quietly, listening to the praise she received from those who had doubted her. Lyra glanced at him, her eyes shining with something new. "Trust. You believe in me?" she whispered. Daniel nodded. "Yes, Lyra. I've believed in you since the first day I met you. And now, after what you did today, everyone can see how special you are." Lyra smiled, a genuine, bright smile that had been rare in her life. For the first time, she felt proud of herself, not because someone chose her, not because someone said she was good enough, but because she had faced a challenge and had done it well. That night, Lyra curled up in the sleeping quarters, exhausted but happy. She replayed the events of the day in her mind, remembering each child she had helped, each moment she had acted without fear. Daniel had been there every step, guiding her, supporting her, and believing in her. Somewhere in the vast galaxy, a small alien girl had begun to understand something important. She was brave, she was clever, she was capable, and she had someone who believed in her completely. Tomorrow, she thought, might bring new challenges, but for now, she could rest, knowing she had shown courage in the face of danger and that she was not alone. She was beginning to understand what it felt like to be cared for, protected, and valued. Daniel watched her sleep, a quiet smile on his face. He knew the road ahead would still have difficulties, rules, doubts, and the many challenges of interstellar adoption. But he also knew that Lyra had something rare: courage and a heart that could shine even in the darkest times. The stars outside, the hub twinkled gently, and Lyra dreamed of a future where she would not be rejected again, where she could belong, and where a human who believed in her would help make that dream real. The next morning, the adoption hub was quiet but tense. Word of Lyra's courage during the life support crisis had spread quickly. Staff and officials whispered among themselves, many impressed by the small alien girl who had saved others despite her size and age. Daniel, however, focused only on Lyra, walking beside her as she moved through the hallways. "Today could be important," he said softly. "Officials are going to review your adoption. You don't have to worry, Lyra. I'll be right here with you." Lyra nodded, feeling a mixture of fear and hope. She had been returned so many times, she was afraid the pattern would continue. But Daniel's calm presence made her feel stronger. For the first time, she thought that maybe, just maybe, someone could truly care for her forever. The review room was large and filled with alien officials from many species. Some were tall and glowing, some short and covered in fur, and others had long limbs that bent in unusual ways. They all looked at Lyra and Daniel, waiting for explanations, evidence, and words that could change her future. Daniel stepped forward, his voice steady. Lyra has shown remarkable courage, intelligence, and kindness. She is capable of great things, and she deserves a home where someone believes in her. I am here to give her that home. One official, a silver-skinned alien with bright blue eyes, frowned. Humans rarely adopt aliens. Some species have strict rules. Many families returned her. Why should we allow this? Daniel met the official's gaze. Because Lyra is not a problem. She is brave and kind. I have watched her face danger, care for others, and persevere when no one else would. She deserves a chance, and I am willing to follow every rule to make it happen. Other officials murmured among themselves. Some looked skeptical. Some nodded quietly, impressed by Daniel's words. Lyra watched, her hands clenched in nervous anticipation. This moment could change everything. Finally, the lead official spoke. Lyra has shown exceptional qualities, yet adopting her will require careful consideration. Human guardianship of aliens is rare and must be approved by multiple species. Are you prepared for the scrutiny and challenges that will come with this? Daniel nodded firmly. I am. I will do whatever it takes to provide Lyra with a safe and loving home. I will not give up. Lyra felt her chest swell with hope. No one had ever spoken for her so firmly. No one had believed in her like this. She looked at Daniel, her golden eyes shining. Do you really think I can have a home? Daniel knelt beside her. Yes, Lyra, I know you can, and I'll make sure it happens. The officials discussed quietly, their voices low but serious. Minutes felt like hours to Lyra. She remembered all the times she had been rejected, returned, and left behind. Her heart thumped with nervous anticipation. Could this time really be different? Finally, the lead official stood. After careful review and considering her actions during the recent crisis, we are convinced of her courage and suitability. The adoption is approved. Lyra will be under the guardianship of Daniel Hayes, with full human responsibility and care. May this decision be respected by all species. Relief washed over Lyra like a warm wave. She blinked rapidly, trying to process the words. Daniel smiled, kneeling beside her and taking her hands in his. See? He said softly. You have a home now, Lyra. You belong. Tears filled Lyra's eyes, but this time they were tears of happiness. She had dreamed of a home like this for so long, never believing it could be real. And now, it was real. Other children in the hub watched quietly. Some whispered to their friends, inspired by Lyra's story. Even alien families who had doubted her courage now looked at her differently, realizing that sometimes a small child could show more strength than they expected. Lyra and Daniel left the review room together. As they walked through the halls, children waved and smiled, some reaching out to thank her for her bravery. Lyra felt a sense of pride she had never experienced before. She had faced danger, helped others, and now she was finally wanted. In the garden dome, Lyra looked at the pond, the reflection of the stars shimmering in the water. Daniel stood beside her, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. Do you know what this means? He asked. Lyra shook her head, a small smile forming. It means you don't have to be afraid anymore. You have a home. You have someone who will care for you no matter what. You can grow, learn, and be yourself. And I'll be here with you every step of the way. Lyra felt a warmth in her chest that was stronger than anything she had felt before. She wanted to believe, and for the first time she could. That night, as the hub lights dimmed, Lyra lay on her bed, thinking about everything that had happened. She remembered Daniel's calm presence, the words he had spoken, and the courage she had found inside herself. She thought about the other children, the challenges she had faced, and the victories she had earned. For the first time in her life, Lyra felt safe. She felt wanted. She felt that she had a place in the galaxy, a place where someone truly cared for her. And that place was with Daniel. Daniel watched her quietly, a gentle smile on his face. He knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, adjusting to life outside the hub, learning new things, and navigating the many rules of human and alien life. But he also knew that Lyra was ready. She had courage, heart, and intelligence, and together they would face whatever came next. The stars outside the hub shone softly, reflecting in the pond and in Lyra's wide, bright eyes. Somewhere deep, inside, she whispered a small, hopeful thought. Maybe I finally belong. Daniel squeezed her hand gently. Yes, Lyra, you do. And for the first time in her young life, Lyra believed it. The ship hummed softly as it left the adoption hub behind. Lyra sat by the observation window, her small hands pressed to the glass. Stars streaked past in long trails, distant worlds twinkling in the darkness. For the first time in her life, she did not feel alone. For the first time, she felt safe. Daniel sat beside her, watching her quietly. He had spent many hours explaining the journey ahead, telling her about the human colony they would soon reach. It was a peaceful settlement on a lush planet with tall trees, rivers, and friendly neighbors. An environment where Lyra could grow, learn, and feel truly at home. You're excited, aren't you? Daniel asked gently. Lyra nodded, though a small tremor of nervousness remained. I think so. It's just new. Everything is new. That's okay, Daniel said with a smile. New can be wonderful. You'll learn things, make friends, and have a home where you are safe and cared for. Lyra glanced at him, her golden eyes reflecting the starlight. Do you really think I can belong there? Daniel nodded firmly. I know you can, and I'll be with you every step of the way. As the ship approached the colony, Lyra could see the green forests and rivers stretching far into the distance. Children played near the edge of the settlement, their laughter carried on the wind. Alien families mingled with humans, exchanging greetings and teaching each other about their cultures. Lyra felt her heart swell. This was not just a new place. It was a world that welcomed her, a world where she could finally belong. The ship landed smoothly on the main platform. Daniel led Lyra down the ramp and into the settlement. People stopped to look, some smiling warmly, some curious about the small alien girl with violet skin and golden eyes. Lyra held tightly to Daniel's hand, feeling both nervous and excited. Remember, Daniel said softly, you are safe here. You have a home, and you can be yourself. Lyra nodded, taking in the sights. She saw children playing games she had never seen, humans and aliens learning together, and families sharing meals and stories. For the first time, she felt she could belong among them. Over the next few days, Lyra explored the colony. Daniel introduced her to the neighbors, helped her meet children her age, and encouraged her to try new activities. Lyra found she could run faster than most children, think more quickly, and solve puzzles in moments that left others amazed. She also discovered her gentle heart mattered as much as her clever mind. She helped a small alien child learn to swim. In the river, comforted a shy human boy afraid of the dark, and even helped an elder repair a small machine in the settlement. Each day, Daniel watched her quietly, proud of the girl she was becoming. Lyra was not perfect, but she was brave, kind, and determined. And she was learning that being herself was enough. One evening, as the sun set over the colony, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange, Lyra and Daniel sat by a small pond. Lyra dipped her hand in the water, watching the ripples spread. "Do you like it here?" Daniel asked. Lyra smiled. "Yes, it's home." She paused, looking up at him. "Thank you for not giving up on me." Daniel smiled warmly. "I told you, Lyra, you're special, and everyone deserves someone who believes in them. I am glad I can be that for you." Lyra leaned against him, feeling a peace she had never known. She realized that a home was not just a building or a place. It was someone who cared, someone who believed in her, and a community that accepted her. She had finally found all of that. Over the weeks, Lyra grew more confident. She attended classes with human and alien children, learning new languages, science, and arts. She played games, joined in festivals, and even shared stories about Zythera with her new friends. Daniel guided her but allowed her to explore on her own. Slowly, she began to understand what it meant to belong somewhere, to be wanted, loved, and safe. Other children in the colony were inspired by Lyra's story. They admired her courage and determination, learning that even someone who had been rejected many times could become a hero. Lyra, in turn, learned from them, discovering the joy of friendship, trust, and community. One quiet night, Lyra stood outside her small home, looking up at the stars. The galaxy seemed so large, so full of possibilities. She thought about her past, the rejections, the fear, the loneliness. But now those memories felt different. They were not just pain, they were proof of her strength. Proof that she could survive, grow, and find happiness. Daniel joined her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Thinking about the stars?" he asked. Lyra nodded. "I used to feel small, lost, like I didn't belong anywhere. But now—" She smiled, her golden eyes shining. "Now I know I have a home. I know I belong." Daniel smiled too, proud and happy. "And that's the most important thing." Lyra turned to him. "Do you think I can be happy here?" Daniel knelt to her level. "I know you can, Lyra, and I'll be with you to make sure you are." The wind rustled through the trees, carrying the sounds of the colony, the laughter of children, the songs of aliens, and the hum of life. Lyra felt it all, and for the first time, she did not feel fear or doubt. She felt hope, she felt love, she felt home. As the stars twinkled above, Lyra whispered softly to herself, "I'm not alone anymore. I finally belong." Daniel squeezed her hand gently. "Yes, Lyra, you do." And for the first time in her young life, Lyra believed it completely. The galaxy stretched out before them, vast and full of possibilities. But Lyra did not feel lost anymore. She had a home, a family, and a human who believed in her. The future was bright, full of hope, adventure, and the knowledge that she was wanted. Lyra smiled up at the sky. Somewhere far away, the stars shone, on the adoption hub she had left behind, and on the journey that had brought her to this moment. She had been rejected many times, but she had never given up. And now, finally, she had a forever home.